Let me ask you. Let me ask you something. Would you rather be eating right now or doing a podcast with me?
I'd rather be doing both. I love to multitask, so I'd love to just be eating and doing. But it's okay. I'm gonna eat after this, and
Okay,
food
great.
is coming, so don't worry. What town are you in?
It's called Tepoztlan.
The
It's an
post.
hour and a half out of Mexico, off of Mexico City. Yeah. So I'm staying for a few more days and then coming back to LA. And we're recording this when I feel the wars have passed for LA for the fires. I
Yeah.
think Eden is at 80% contained and the Palisades fire is 50%, but it's not growing. And so that's the context in which we're recording this. But I want to ask you, how did you live through it? This gut punch.
Yeah. I was watching it all on my couch unfold and being like, I can't believe this is happening. Um, my mom called me. So my mom is in Texas, and everybody in Texas and Mexico was getting the news and thinking that we were all on fire. Like they didn't really understand that it was just first it was just the Palisades, right? So she didn't understand. So she forced me to evacuate. She forced me to evacuate my apartment. She was being so like she was so stressed out, and she was at school. She was at work when she called me. So I did it for her because I didn't want her to be stressed out and worried for me. So I got me, my brother was here, my cousin, we all like got into a car and we like drove to San Diego. Well, we drove that in that direction, and then we realized, you know what? We're being a little dramatic. We're gonna stop here at the beach. We're gonna call it a day. We're gonna go back. The craziest thing is when we drove back to LA, we saw the Hollywood Hills fire right in front of us. Like we were on the freeway and we just saw the hills on fire, and we were like, holy shit, we should not have come back. Like we made a mistake.
So
So
it wasn't real until it was real, and then you came
uh-huh.
back at the worst time when you actually had to evacuate. Did everything.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot, and it was not as stressful for me as it was for some people. I have friends who lost their homes, and I just feel terrible that this is happening. It's truly so sad. Like what a way to start 2025.
What a fucking shit show of a year, 2025. I don't like it. Don't like what is going on. And then David Lynch dies. Are you fucking kidding me right now? It's the worst thing that could happen. And the worst part is that it's kind of connected because he had to evacuate and he had emphysema, so he was suffering from this lung disease because smoking finally caught up with him, and then
I didn't realize it was
dies. And
connected.
this is fucking
Yeah.
a fucking bummer, you know?
Oh, I feel so sad. I didn't know it was because of that. I knew that he had some lung issues and health issues, but I didn't make the connection until just now, until you said it.
I and you know, it's he's one of my favorite filmmakers. I because I feel people lately met him more as a meme or as a character in the internet than the filmmaker, right? And I think that for everybody who knows who David Lynch is but haven't watched his movies, I really encourage you to go watch them because he is such a special creator in my view. I mean, the thing that I love the most about David Lynch is that it feels like nothing else in the US film mainstream. Right? Because granted, the US have like an underground, had always had like films being made in the independent sphere that maybe are not known to the people, but he managed to create very abstract artistic films that are fun and everybody can enjoy and made it to the mainstream with things that are extremely authentic.
That's so
I mean,
sad.
he gave us Twin Peaks, but then he went away, and I feel like I lost someone close to me in a weird way. You know,
If you could tell someone to like go check out his filmography, like which three would you suggest to start with?
the easiest way to start and the most joyful way to start to watch David Lynch is Twin Peaks. So Twin Peaks is a show before shows were a thing. It's an absurdist thriller and in a way a whodunit in the middle of nowhere. A bright girl in the community that everybody loves dies, and then that starts to unfold a lot of secrets. But then that is just the beginning of what you would expect from a kind of like detective show or a whodunit or whatever. And then he starts building layers of spirituality on it, absurdist. It almost exploits things like soap opera language. What do you have there?
Do you see her? You can see her?
No.
She just was so dramatic and just fell over.
Could you
So
describe what
dramatic.
is happening for those who are not watching the video stream right now because this is the best. This is such a
This
Lynchian moment.
this dog just collapsed. She was fine, and she just, like, turned over and collapsed so in such a dramatic fashion. She even let out, like, a little cry. She's so bored here, Nico. That is where this is coming from. This is a bored dog being dramatic.
What can we do to lift her spirits?
I already took her to the dog park yesterday. I'm so tired.
I don't know what to say. I'm not a big dog person right now, you know? But connecting it to the previous thing, I would say that's a very typical David Lynch moment. Then you're talking about something serious and a dog just whimpers and collapses on a sofa. Then the fabric of reality is pierced and then we see through it. That's truth. What's her name?
I call her Macy. Her name on the adoption website is Glacier, which makes no sense.
Glacier is a little frozen themed.
I guess.
So I would say Twin Peaks, go watch Mulholland Drive. Another, it's a very, very, very LA movie, which is fitting right now. Again, it just plays with themes of like languages of the language of soap operas at times, and breaks it apart into something else. The romance is it's a horror story. It's all at the same time. It's genre bending. And then my other favorite is Lost Highway, another crazy
Mm,
one. And
I
I
haven't seen
bet
that.
that if you watch the movie, you will recognize scenes because the thing with David Lynch is that he's, from my point of view, David Lynch is not a storyteller. He's more of a narrator, and he would just expose different scenes loosely connected. So Mulholland Drive and Twin Peaks and Lost Highway, they have narratives, they have a story, but the story is not the most important thing, unlike other American movies where the story is everything. And Americans are very oriented to storytelling, and the story needs to be well rounded, it needs to have a beginning, middle, and end, and needs to have a payoff at the end. But that's not David Lynch's business, right? What he will like, he will start with a story, but then he will get lost in the moments that the story shows him, and the scenes will be connected like vignettes. Now, every scene is amazing. Every scene is like a little short story and has what I was saying before. It just has something that breaks in the middle of your expectations and takes you to a place of truth when you go, I don't know what is happening, but my body understands the situation. My
Yes.
body
Yeah.
understands the weirdness because I've been through the weirdness of reality. But then society has managed to just make it, to clean up all those weirdness and truthful moments into something that we can work with and make capitalism work on top at times. And at times it's very hard to watch because it's hit or miss, right?
Yes.
I'm the first one
Yes.
to say.
Yep.
Sometimes his movies can be amazing and sometimes they lose you.
Yeah.
And some are harder to get than others. The last proper movie I think is Inland Empire, and that's not for me. It's too
Mm,
abstract. Like I can't.
mm.
There are moments of it that I love, but as a whole piece, it loses me many times, right? But
Yeah.
those three, oh my god, those three made my life. Mulholland Drive, Lost Highway, Twin Peaks, go.
I think that's a great list. And the way that you just described David Lynch is just very similar to the way I was going to describe how I felt watching The Brutalist last night.
I want
And
to
I don't
watch. I want to.
know
I want to hear you talk about this so much.
who is the director. I don't know.
Okay, so I've been looking it up because I was confused about this. I haven't seen, so for the record, I haven't seen the movie. So the director is called Brady Corbett, and this guy has been around some great sets because he's also an actor, and he's been in some of my favorite movies. He had a character in Funny Games, the remake of Haneke, which is one of my favorite directors. He was on Martha Macy May Marlene, which is this thriller that Sean Darking directed.
Hmm.
Melancholia by Lars von Trier, Force Majeure, Robert Ostlund, that guy from Triangle of Sadness. He was an
Wow.
actor in that movie. And then finally, Klaus of Sils Maria, the Olivier Assayas movie. He was an actor in that one. And
Yeah.
so this comes a little bit out of nowhere for me. I didn't know his career very well, but apparently he's been self-financing this, and Brody hasn't got a dime out of it. Like he was volunteering his time for the movie. That's all I know, but I haven't seen it. I know people are praising it, but I'm really curious to see what you thought.
Okay. I was having and like a very much like almost out of body experience because I did take a gummy before watching this movie, right? And I didn't know what I was walking into. Didn't know what I was walking into. And then I was sitting there feeling the effects of the gummy, having to turn to my friend next to me and being like, this is as good as I think it is, right? Is this actually as good as I'm feeling it is? Because I want to cry. Like it was so incredible. I've never seen sound design the way I saw it in this film. Yeah. It was it was magnificent. I think it was like a reminder of how provocative and emotional films can be, and just the visceral reaction I was having, and other people were having it as well. Like the entire theater could feel it, to the point where the intermission came and you could feel like a relief, like a sigh of relief. Like everyone was like, whew, like we all were catching our breath at the intermission. Like that's how it, yeah.
Because it's long.
It's 4 hours long.
So
Four
they
hours
make an
long.
intermission.
So the plan was I was gonna watch the first half today. I mean, yesterday. I was gonna watch the first half yesterday, and then I was gonna watch the second half today, which did not happen because you were like, holy shit, I need to find out what happens next. Like, I want to just get through it. So I got up, went to the bathroom, came back down, and I will say the second half wasn't as good as the first half, but it was still a very good story, and I think it was written and directed by the same person, right?
I think
So
so, yeah.
props to the incredible script. It was very, very, very good.
With the one that I just finished watching last night was one that I loved, and it's also it's experimental, but also so compelling that it's called the Outrun. It's called the director is called Nora Fitch. Right? It's with Saoirse Ronan,
Yeah, I want to watch it. Saoirse produced it. Yeah.
and she is a powerhouse in it. She carries on the weight of this movie. It's her in a landscape, and that's all you get. And
Yeah.
it's the most compelling story based on, I think it's based on the memoirs of a journalist called Amy Liptrot about the basically the struggles to leave her alcoholism behind, and
Mhm.
she's struggling with addiction.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like a meditation about addiction, but it's so much more. It takes place in this remote island of Scotland. Well, this character Rona gets to goes to get better and isolate herself from her addiction, and so it's her facing the elements in this middle of nowhere island that is all about wind and waves and the beach, and she's in the middle of this cabin, and the movies goes back and forth from that present to her life in London and how she went from
Oh,
being a successful student to destroying her life over drinking. And it never bores you. It's so eventful and beautiful and very heartbreaking because she does such a great job at depicting the struggles of addiction. And what I love about the movie is that suddenly this island becomes a character that has life of its own, and it's very meditative. It's very atmospherical as a movie. It's really poetic and never boring. Always exciting. Always full of energy in the context of a very still story because nothing really happens in the story, but somehow the movie manages to grab your attention and to take you through the relationships and family history, and it's very beautiful.
I want to watch it. I feel like it's going a little under the radar for some reason, and it's not. I'm like, give Saoirse her flowers. Like she's been working so hard. She did this, she did Blitz. I love her.
I haven't seen Blitz.
It's worth a watch. It's worth a watch. But I want to pause and talk about where I think you are right now in Mexico. This is where I think you are. I think you are in a restaurant, it seems, and I feel like they're making quesadillas in front of you or something.
Several. It's very noisy, huh?
It's so noisy. It's so
So
noisy. And it's just, it's great. It's very much on par with what we're talking about.
so
Life.
it's not, and they're not, but this life going, there's no way
Yeah.
to escape that kind of life and where I'm at right now. But there's no, I mean, it's a cafe. It's like I can show you around. You want to see
Yeah.
it?
I'd love a tour because it's, yeah. You miss Mexico.
So this is the beautiful garden.
Oh, it's not what I
Our
pictured.
little
Oh,
road,
okay.
and
Okay.
we have
Okay.
this man
Yes.
selling things, and he's probably very loud and beautiful. And what I'm gonna do is later try to clean up the noise. I think it's gonna get better than what you're experiencing right now. For the people who are
I
not,
love it. It's very immersive. I'm not worried.
my
Let,
voice comes through.
yeah, your voice comes through. Let them understand that you are. not in a studio.
Something I love about our podcast, and especially the proof of life section of it, is that it can get us anywhere. Like it just finds us wherever we are, and it's a conversation. I
I
think
know.
that that's much better than a polished studio podcast. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm unapologetically in Mexico right now, and so that's supposed to come through the
Um,
conversation.
you have a very big fan in my family. My mom is your
Wow,
biggest fan.
no way.
It's hilarious. She said, "Tell Nico I said hi," and I'm like, "Mom,
What
he doesn't
what's
know
her name?
you."
What's I
Norma.
know her. I Norma. Does she speak Spanish?
Yeah.
Norma, gracias por seguir el podcast. Yo sé que soy lo mejor del podcast. No tienes que decirlo, sería imposible para ti porque
Oh my
puedes hacer
god,
eso con tu hija, pero
that's
es
so.
mutuo.
Hi, Mom.
Gracias por Helen. I tell you what I've been watching. So I watched one that I want to tell you about. I'm excited because this is something you watched before me.
Mm.
Anora with Sean Baker
Oh,
with
finally,
Mikey
you talked
Madison, right?
about
So
it.
let's talk about Anora for a
About it.
second. I think that my rating is 5 stars. I loved Anora. I thought it was great.
I'm annoyed. I'm
I
annoyed.
thought that Anora is a triptych, is a movie that is 3 movies in one, right? So we can discuss them in separate order, right? So that I think, hear me out. So at the beginning of Anora, he falls in love with this douchey Russian millionaire, right? That's
Yeah.
a that's a story right there. And I think that until the point that she gets spoilers alert, she marries him. He out of a whim in a manic episode, he proposes. She says yes, and you start you said this before when as an audience you go like, no girl, don't do that, that's gonna end that very very badly. She goes through with it, and it's a hard bargain not to take because this guy has all the money and is proposing an amazing life. She's already opening up the doors of a lot of new experiences for her, right? Movie number one. Movie number two is a weird comedy, screwball comedy about Honora getting pushback from the Russian family, and then you have these thugs that tie her up, and then she tries to escape, and then they have to look for this kid to break the marriage, right? Movie
Mm-hmm.
number two. That's a lighter movie. I think it's a less original movie. I think it relies on or more known tropes, which is
Mm-hmm.
not a bad thing. I feel like it's just is the familiarity of like it feels like a Coen Brothers movie. The characters are larger than life, very stereotypically Russian thugs, right? Kind of looking for a guy through a city and and it's an absurd moment, right? Very different than the first one. Felt more contemporary. And then the third one is a very sad movie about Honora about her coming to terms with the reality that she's not going to get married with this guy. The guy would not defend her marriage. That all that was a dream, and it was an impossible dream, almost like Cinderella, right? Like a
Mm-hmm.
fairy tale that comes to an end in a sad way.
Yeah.
And the very last moment, so all throughout the story, you have the Igor, which is this thug that is supposed to be friendly. It's supposed to have like a depth to him, and then at the
Yep.
end, they start basically flirting, or there's sexual tension that gets
Mm-hmm.
resolved in the final moments of the movie when they get together, and they and that to me was saving grace. Like I had like an even opinion about the movie, and then that moment felt so strong, so perfect. Wait, I can't describe it really, but they have sex and they stop it. I would ruin it by describing it, but
No,
again, coming back to David Lynch,
yeah,
it's just like something that you're perceiving,
yeah.
and you go and your body knows that weirdness is like all the themes of the movie are emerging in that sex scene that is so
Mm-hmm.
sad, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
catalyst for something very profound about
Yeah.
all the anxieties that she had and all the repression that she suffered throughout the movie suddenly comes bubbling up into that moment. I felt that was a masterfully done scene. So that moment to me, the final moments of the movie really made me change my mind about the whole thing, and I felt like, oh, this is actually very deep. And then I have questions for you because we've been talking about post woke movies, right? Movies that are not putting an effort in trying to express virtue signaling. We talk about it with Twisters, and I feel that I would put Anora in the same camp as in a movie that is acknowledging the struggles of the character, but is not afraid of sometimes working with objectification for the character, like she's very sexualized. The director, who's a man, is not shying away from showing the complexities of a sex worker, which 3 years ago would have been unthinkable. It was not the place of a man to talk about a sex worker. It was not the place of a man to describe those complexities. And most importantly, it was definitely not a good idea to show a character that's sexualized. And sometimes she's very sexy on screen. Like sometimes you could argue she's objectified. I'm really curious to see how do you receive that as a woman, and what do you think about it?
Two things can be true. I think that yes, the ending was spectacular and I it left me crying, that final scene in the car. But I think it was a missed opportunity of a film. I think that if it had been directed by a woman, it would have been different. Um if it had just been a little bit deeper in terms of the character, had she not been sexualized for so much of the movie, we could have explored her character in a little bit more depth, and I would have felt a little bit better about the movie overall. But I think because it was Sean Baker and because he was trying to tell this specific story, it wasn't what I was expecting. That's all it was. I think I went in with much higher expectations, and this wasn't that. This was a slice of life in a way. Like it was a scene in her life, a moment in her life. It wasn't a bigger character analysis or exploration of the sex industry. Like it wasn't that. So I think I just have to taper my expectations in that sense. But uh yeah, there was also like no intimacy coordinator on set. That
No way.
there wasn't. There was, which already kind of tells you something about how a man approaches this directing wise, right? Because he left it up to the actors, which I think wasn't super responsible, because if you approach two young actors in their career and propose this idea of like not having an intimacy coordinator, what are they going to say to you as the director? You're the one approaching this and like letting them choose. Like you as a director are in charge of creating a safe environment where you cannot then be sued and have other people in dangerous situations. So I think that was very irresponsible. But yeah, she was so sexualized in a way that was like not too necessary for the movie. Like explain, that scene where where she's just like dancing for him and she's wearing that like schoolgirl outfit. Like I keep thinking about that scene and being like,
Yeah.
well, what's the point of that necessarily? I don't know what the point of that particular scene was in the broader scope of it all, but I think like I don't know. I don't know. I just have a lot of issues with it, and a lot of people talk about how it was a very white film. And if you look at sex workers and the demographics, like it's not that. And I think that there's a whole like there could have been a whole thing with like supporting character. The supporting character, Diamond or what's her face, was like a white girl. I don't know. I think it was. I think it was an okay film. And I keep hearing from men like, "Oh my god, I loved it," and I'm like, "Do you think you're supposed to like love it? Is that what you think? That's like, no, that's I don't know. I think it's just a different." Um,
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I loved it this in spite of the things you're describing, but to me was like, oh, this is not getting canceled. Are men allowed to sexualize women again on movies? Like, I'm not endorsing it for the record, but I was surprised that a movie like this, where everybody gloss over those things, and we're like, you know what, we love the movie, it's in the mainstream, we're just rallying for it to get an Oscar, we're in a new era, and I feel we are in a new era for probably for worse. We are in a new place where these things are going to be forgotten a little bit. There was a strict rule of conduct or etiquette for directors 3 years ago that seems to be easing out, which is a very interesting shift in culture.
yeah, I guess the last thing I just will say about it is that had we had a different perception of the character, like a duality. Had we had more of that character, I think then I would have been okay with the over sexualization of her, because at the end of the day, like it only made it okay because the men who are watching this movie are in a sense rooting for her as well, because everyone as a collective is able to see how this Russian kid is an asshole, right?
Yeah.
But outside of like, okay, the film's over, right? What is left to say of that character? Nothing. We don't know anything about her other than the fact that she's a sex worker, and we don't see how it affects her life afterwards. And so, in a sense, you're just saying like, okay, this is a woman who's a sex worker, but that's it. Like that's all we're gonna say about her.
So
Yeah.
another one that I watch is Maria by Larraín, which is the biopic of Maria Callas with Angelina Jolie. And I am prejudiced against Angelina Jolie, but I have to say I was really moved by Maria, her portrayal of Maria Callas. She's very good in it, and she's very
Mhm,
moving. And there's a
mhm.
sadness and a depth that comes with age, I think, in actors that she's achieving. There's a gravitas that she's able to bring to the character that I really like. Did you watch a movie?
No, I agree. She killed it. Who do we think is gonna take the Oscar for Best Actress?
I maybe we should do an episode about that next time. I want to do an episode about like the best things of 2025. Maybe we can connect them with the award season and see, make some Oscar predictions ourselves.
We should do it. We
I
should do
think
that.
that would be fun.
That would be really fun.
But I want to ask you about your New Year resolution.
I am looking forward to specifically this podcast because I'm freaking out about AI basically, and I would
Okay.
like to have more conversations with creatives, with filmmakers that kind of like can keep my hopes up and can keep me from like not going, just like picking a different career and being like, bye, I'm out of here. So I need that, but I also am looking forward to like continuing to create. I want to get back into live events, so I'm going to do that. um Create, create, create is kind of the theme of 2025 for me. And yeah, I think that's it. That's all I've got going
Create
on.
create things, keep your job, and try to stay away from the fear of AI.
or or hear me out, learn some sort of AI tricks and tools and like go create an app and then sell it and then use that money, like just I don't know, get creative.
Well, the good thing is your co-host is a nerd, and I've been going deep into this rabbit hole of AI. But the midterm, I think, is a very interesting conversation to have. My
Yeah.
point is we have to, as artists, be part of it as opposed to shy away from it or be an activist against it, because this is a technology that is being shaped not only by corporations but also by open source models. So there's no escape on this. You could say it's capitalism, but the truth is there are open source models right now in the hands of independent people that will also be part of this conversation and shape the future. We have to be part of it, especially because it's a technology that learned from artists. You gotta have your hands in it, and you have to learn about it and try to understand what it is. And even if you're critical about it, or if you think that you're opposed to it, and there's a lot of ethical. So I love the idea of just keep talking and integrating that into our podcast from the perspective of filmmakers, I think, which is our world and the one that I can have an opinion about, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Especially like you said to me earlier, I don't know when, but like bringing it into a conversation that other people who may not know enough about it can learn and kind of learn with us and grow with us and like be more open-minded as we are also learning and figuring out how to implement it into our lives. Yeah, who knows? We'll keep talking about it. What are you looking forward to in 2025?
Kind of the same thing. So I feel like my 2024 was basically managing things I created in 2023. So I did this short film in 23. We premiered at Sundance. We went to a lot of festivals. That was a lot of managing. We started the podcast. I think, well, we launched the podcast. We started in 23 with a podcast recording, I think,
I think so.
or and then we launched it in 24, and we've been managing that. And I feel like we're now more comfortable with what it is and how to make it right. So so now that things have settled a little bit, I want to go back to creating. I want to finish writing the screenplays that I was writing before. I want to create new things, and also I decided to cut on social media, and this comes at the same time that we're recording this at the first, I think the first day of TikTok ban. So if you go into TikTok, this doesn't allow you to browse. At least I'm here in Mexico. I have a US account and I can't access it. And in a
It's
way was a
back.
is back.
It's back.
So it was a short.
It was gone for like less than 24 hours, I think, but it's back.
All right. So that short out of TikTok, I think, opened my eyes to the fact that I'm, as much as I love the feed that it shows me, I think that it's taking too much of my time and fragmenting my attention in a way that I don't like. So my 2025, I really hope it will be more about slower feed streams, like for example Substack. So I downloaded Substack app, and I go to that if I want to read something, and if I want. So it's kind of like my methadone right now is Substack, and I read longer articles, try to engage with things that are a little bit more complex as opposed to short bursts of attention and dopamine. So we'll see how long I can keep up with it, but I really feel that it's going to be a part. Like I feel more creative when I'm immersed in things that are deeper, and I can focus on them for a longer period of time. My attention is so fragmented that I don't really remember what I watched, which is very scary, and I'm not in a creative place.
I agree. I agree. I had to delete it. I was off of it for about 2 months, but I agree. It's like making sure we're balancing our consumption of media with the output of content, if that's what you want to call it. But yeah, that's great. I'm excited. I'm excited for 2025, and we'll just keep chatting and having more, hopefully, like deeper conversations.
All right, so next time when it's less noisy, I'm going to tell you about my trip to Patagonia, an unexpected connection with the film industry as I was there. So looking
That's
forward to tell you all
exciting.
that.
Okay, awesome. And then we'll also do like Oscar predictions if we even have the Oscars, but we'll
Yeah,
see.
let's do it. Let's do
All
it.
right. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.